Hey, are you a writer? Are you a philosopher? Are you a bartender? Are you a comedian? Are you serious? I am, and our next guest is all of those things. My name is Vin Dacquino. Our next guest is David Gallo. David, let's talk writing.
How are you, Vin?
David, I've always been fascinated by you, what you do, how you do it. I'm also especially fascinated about your little black book. Talk to me. Who are you, David? And what is this little black book? And where does philosophy fit into all of this? Who are you, Dave?
Well, that's a pretty interesting question to ask a person who is a philosopher.
Yeah.
And we only have a half hour, so I don't know if I have enough time to answer it. But I'm just a guy who likes to have an outlet like everybody else.
And you studied philosophy, yes?
I did.
So that was your major. Mm-hmm. And when you studied philosophy, you studied what life is all about. And you studied some of the great philosophers of our time. Any favorites?
The classics. Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, the guys who changed the way that we think long before anybody thought to do so.
So you do a lot of thinking.
Too much.
Too much, okay. And you are the quintessential bartender, philosopher. People make jokes about some of the best philosophers of our time are bartenders or hairdressers. Do you philosophize while you're working?
Well, you have to. I mean, everybody drinks for a reason.
Yeah, and they have stories to tell.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's my job to be a listening ear and maybe give a piece of helpful advice when necessary and kind of stay out of it when it's none of my business.
Okay. So what is a good piece of advice?
The golden rule, I think, is the first one that comes to mind.
Okay.
Treat others the way you want to be treated.
A good one. All right, and I noticed you have this little black book.
Yes.
I love that idea. I have been talking and working with writers for years. And what I tell them is, take notes. Sometimes wonderful thoughts are fleeting.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you have a dream in the night and you wake up in the middle of the night and say, whoa, I should write that down. And then you wake up in the morning and you can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
So it's good to take notes.
Absolutely.
What in the world do you write in that little black book besides girls' phone numbers?
Anything, which, and that works too.
That works too.
It's certainly a conversation piece in the bar. They're curious what you're writing. But that being said, anything that comes to mind. I mean, like you said, nobody can remember everything. So if it comes to mind, if it's a joke, the beginning of where I think a joke could be, or just a little bit of philosophy, or if I'm taking a Chinese food order for the boys, whatever I need to write down at that period in time goes in the book.
So I'm glad you brought that up about jokes, because you have another hat that you wear as a stand-up comedian. Mm-hmm. And you write most of your material, yes?
All of it.
All of it?
Yeah.
Okay. Give me an idea of that. What sort of material do you write?
Well, I mean, I think I would consider myself a dry, satirical comic. I like to observe the world and society that we live in and kind of poke fun at all the ups and downs that we go through and understand together.
Do you have a particular comedian that you like?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I want to try to emulate anybody in particular. I like to try to find my own voice when I'm up on stage, and as I'm sure you know, whatever comes out of your mouth, sometimes you may or may not be responsible for.
That's right.
That being said, how can you not like the classics like George Carlin?
I was just going to say, George Carlin. George Carlin had just such a wonderful way of talking about life through his comedy. Yeah. Getting us to sort of laugh at ourselves.
Yeah.
And is that kind of what you...
Yeah, I mean, I think that you see a lot in comedy, the sad clown, if you will. A lot of hurt turned around so we can all laugh about it so we're not crying every day.
Right, so we laugh at ourselves.
If you can't laugh at yourself, you're really going to have trouble laughing at anybody else. So I think it all does start there.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we had a guest recently, Eleanor Lerman, who kind of said that in a way. She was saying that we have to look at ourselves, not necessarily write about ourselves, but look at ourselves, and that's what you do. You look at the world you live in, and you kind of talk about it, give us a chance to reflect on what we see in life.
Yeah. I mean, life is so hectic and crazy and unexplainable that trying to explain it in itself is worth the exercise.
Yeah, to observe the changes and try to just be aware of what we're seeing. George Carlin did this whole thing about stuff, that we all gather stuff. And it's almost like we put it in this box called our house.
Yeah.
And these are our things. And everybody's things are different. What are David's things?
Well, although I do enjoy the finer things in life, things don't matter. It's the relationships that you have with people, and a lot of, to be honest, I don't even remember the philosopher, but I mean, it's the exploration of the knowledge itself, which is worth more than anything else. If you're not trying to make yourself better every day and learn something new every day, you're doing something wrong. So ultimately, I got stuff. I go to work every day, and I'm not a lifelong stand-up comic because I don't want to be a starving artist.
Yeah.
That being said, if I have it, it's yours. It doesn't matter. I'll buy a round of drinks for everybody.
Yeah, it's people don't realize it. Writers, comedians don't always get rich writing or performing. You have to do it because it's something you want to do. It has to be part of you. Writing is sometimes a haunting. And also, I'm a Leo. I'm really a Leo. I was in the spotlight since I was 12 years old. I can remember being in 6th grade, standing on the fire truck in the parking lot, looking at the entire school, giving a speech on fire prevention. Man, that gave me such a taste for being in front of an audience. I love being in front of an audience. Obviously, here I am again doing it here. It's what I do. Tell me about that feeling of being up there, because it's not enough just to be up there. You have to write what you have to do to get there.
Yeah.
You don't just stand up in front of an audience until you have something to say.
Yeah. And I didn't realize that I was funny until I took a public speaking class when I studied abroad in Australia.
Wow. Oh, did you?
I did.
Wow.
I did. And they do classes a little bit differently there. And they break it down throughout the week, so it's a more intimate setting. And then they have a lecture center. And they had this friends and family speech. So it was the final. After we worked all semester, everybody has to go talk about yourself, and you need a prop. So out of all the classes and all these broken down little groups, they got to call somebody first. And who do they call? Me.
Of course.
I wasn't prepared. So you need something to show the class. I was walking around with a pair of shoelaceless shoes at the time. So I walked down in front of the 200 people. I held up my shoe with no shoelaces, and I said, I'd like to tell you the story about how I lost my shoelaces. And really, the rest is history.
Yeah. Some things just come natural. I want to put you on a spot
Please.
a little bit.
Go ahead.
One of your comedy routines. Is there a little taste, a little piece you can give it?
Maybe I'll read a little something out of the book.
Out of a little black book?
This little excerpt says, no matter what color shirt I wear, the lint in my belly button is always white. It's just stupid little things. One of my favorite jokes that I tell is, I come from a culturally diverse family. My father is Italian Catholic, and my mother is Eastern European Jewish, which means that we celebrate Christmas and Hanukkah. Last year we tried to celebrate them together, but we ended up burning the tree down. And I think comedy, you have to take people down a path and then kind of smack them in the mouth when they're not expecting it to come.
The interesting thing about stand-up comedy is that unlike when you're writing a book or a set of poems, you're not there when you're writing those things with your audience. Mm-hmm. Here, you write it, you actually get immediate response to your writing because they're there. If they don't laugh, you're in trouble. You have to kind of save that audience.
And that's what makes it fun. I mean, and it is a bit of a rush, you know? That is what got me coming back. I had a friend who was doing stand-up. I was living out in California for a little bit, and he came over to my house. He said, let's go do a couple minutes. I'm like, oh, if you can do it, I can do it. But once you get up on stage, 5 minutes is a very long time.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so even if you think you're a funny person, you need jokes, you know?
Yeah.
So you have to kind of go with the ebb and flow of the set itself because everybody has a different sense of humor. Different audiences are going to react differently. So you have to go along what they're playing with and what they enjoy. But you need the fallback jokes. You know, you need jokes that you know you're going to get a laugh.
Yeah.
And I'll take a cheap laugh any day of the week.
Yeah, right.
You know, but, you know, it's the approach to just trying to squeeze out every bit of joy and laughter that you can get out of this group of people.
Yeah.
You know, and every time it's different, it's fun.
And that's also what's amazing. You could do the same routine for one group and be a hit, and do the same routine for another group and fall flat.
That's it.
I used to do stand-up comedy.
Did you?
And it was amazing. When it's right, oh, it's so right. And when you hear it all, they're laughing and they're going along with you, and people who are talking stop to listen to you. But then there's the times you sit there and they're all having their own conversations and they're like, and they dismiss you.
Yeah.
Tough.
Yeah.
That's why, and that's one of the reasons why you're on the show today. Because I want people to understand that writing isn't just writing. Writing poetry, writing short stories, writing novels are different forms of writing. And I try to bring as many diverse writers as I can to this show to let people know that having a desire to write is one thing, but knowing what it is you write best is another. And in order to do that, you have to know yourself. You have to write as many different things to find out where your little niche is. So writing comedy, big time. Tough stuff, especially since you're writing it for you. You have to deliver what you're writing.
Well, good thing I think I'm hilarious.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
Yeah,
No,
and you do have to believe in yourself.
Absolutely.
I talk often to writers about the fact that writing is dropping your pants in public. It's exposing yourself.
Which I'm also willing to do.
Yeah, yeah. I heard that about you. No, so I mean, you really do have to go out there and put yourself out on a limb.
Yeah.
And when you're out there, man, there is nothing scarier than being out there and saying, "Oh my God, I'm off tonight. I'm not on." I mean, this here, some of the shows when I come on, I feel here. There are times when I just don't feel here right now. What I love about this show is that it's spontaneity. You know, you come here and it's what's in your head and your heart and you say it. Unfortunately, you can't edit it the way you do with some of the writing. One thing I always say is you don't write a piece, you work a piece. Well, when you're out there and that camera's on you, there's not too much time to work. You're going to work it, and it's either going to come out right or it's not. How long does it take you to write a skit?
I mean, sometimes it just comes to me. Sometimes it develops. I've been doing it for a few years now, so jokes have certainly evolved. You know, it was very easy in the beginning to write, you know, about midgets. You know what I mean? You know, to find the easy laughs where they may or may not be a quality joke. That being said, I think I've learned as a comic along the way on how to really delve into the things that people, you know, maybe question about themselves or find interesting or, you know, something along those lines.
And it's very difficult to be politically correct in comedy too.
I enjoy walking that fine line, you know. You can't worry about what people think about you. If you speak from your heart, you know, it can't be from a place of hate, generally speaking, or else you're going to be Michael Richards and you're going to have to apologize to a lot of people.
Yeah.
But you need to be able to speak from your heart. I enjoy making people uncomfortable. Now, that being said, you know, you need to walk a fine line to know what's appropriate in the world and what isn't, but really making people kind of squeam and squirmish, you know, a little bit.
Like, well, I mean, Don Rickles made a career on doing that.
I don't like being mean, though.
Yeah, that is very important. So I would tell comedians or comedy writers the same thing I would tell other writers. You have to look at what else is being said out there. What are comedians doing? What is considered off limits? What is considered off color? What is considered having fun with people and laughing at ourselves? And laughing at ourselves and not poking fun at ourselves. So writing comedy is, it's a fine line that
absolutely.
you walk.
And you need to be avant-garde. You know, you need to be pushing the envelope. You need to be trying to show people things that they've never heard before, never seen before, never tried to think about before.
But you have to be careful not to hurt people.
Yeah.
And not to be
it's bound to
hurtful.
happen. You
It
know,
is bound to happen.
and sometimes.
But you try to avoid it.
Absolutely. You know, but at the same time, you need to stand for what you believe, and you know whether people are offended or not. You know, I'm not very apologetic to how I view the world and how.
And you try to get people to kind of laugh with you.
Yeah,
And not
at me is fine too.
Yeah.
I mean, a laugh is a laugh, like I said. But you know, it's let's laugh as a group. You know, I mean, and with poetry, with novels, with anything, you know, a successful piece of writing is relevant to the people reading it.
And you try to see humor with an open mind.
Yeah.
Okay, and life. So talk to me more now about philosophy.
Okay.
When you were a philosophy student, obviously it had impact on you because you're carrying it with you.
Yeah.
And you're thinking about philosophers. There are so many theories about what life is and how long we live and why we're alive and what is the purpose of being here. If it's a lesson, what is it a lesson for?
Right.
Why have a lesson if life ends here? What are you going to do with it? So what is your message? What is life, David?
I decided to be a philosophy major when I took Introduction to Philosophy. It was the only worthwhile class that I took because a teacher said one thing and my jaw dropped to the ground, and it was like nothing. I don't even remember what he said. But
okay.
Philosophy is asking questions that can't be answered. And in the pursuit of an answer to something that can't be answered is...
Well, not that it can't be answered. It can't be verified.
Okay, well, you think you're right, and I think I'm right. And, you know, we can argue all day about it. But when it comes down to it, nobody can be definitive about anything.
Okay,
you know, do I exist? Am I really here? Is this just a dream? You know, or am I talking to myself right now? You know, although we could say that the sky is blue, is your blue my blue? You know, I mean, and these are questions that people really try to avoid because if you think about it for long enough, it's like a little kid. You know, why, Daddy? Why? Why? And you can go back and back and back and back until nothing makes sense anymore. So, I mean, when I was a philosophy major for 4 years and you think along these lines, by the time you're writing that final thesis, I was laughing at the people talking to me in my head. You know what I mean? It's impossible not to go crazy.
Yeah. And these great philosophers, are they still here? You know, are their spirits really alive? I wonder with some of these books. I've said this in dozens and dozens of my talks that things like Sybil Ludington, almost all of her history was incorrect. I spent 3.5 years getting her life straight. Was this my obsession or hers? Was this Sybil Ludington working through me, trying to get it straightened out? Her husband's information was wrong, her son's information, her grandson who died saving people's lives. Could a great woman like that stay dead?
Yeah.
Is her spirit still alive? I have questions about, just because this body dies, does that mean our mind dies? Put the body 6 feet under, but what about this mind, this soul, that doesn't seem connected to the body? Does it become disconnected? And then if it does, where is it out there? And can we contact that in some way? Well, it's as you say, a lot of questions. Definitive answers? I don't know. So are there any answers that are definitive to you, David? Things that you say, well, you know what? I don't know about this, but I do know this.
I think the only thing that you could know is that you're here right now.
That's right. Somehow you're here and you leave. So you come, you go. One thing I always say, that one person guaranteed to be with you from birth to death is you. You're the only one who's with you your entire lifetime.
But are you the same person that you are when you started than you are at the beginning? Are
Life
you the
changes.
sum of the parts? Are you the person that's taking the journey?
Yeah,
You know?
and even some of the philosophers that we study, are they the same philosophers in old age that they were at a younger age? Do they still believe in the same things? By the time, it's almost like the stars, by the time we actually see them, how much time has elapsed? And even with them, by the time they filter what it is they're trying to say in their books and in their works, is it the same thing they believe in their head and their heart? On the day you're reading what they believe, are they still believing it?
I mean, is somebody a hero before they do something heroic?
Yeah, yeah.
You think?
Yeah, I think the quality of heroism is with them, but until they do it, same thing with writers. I tell my writers all the time. Writers come to me and they go, oh yeah, you're a writer, right, Mr. Dacquino? I say, yeah, yes I am. Me too. I said, really? What have you written? Well, I don't have anything written yet, but I mean, I'm always writing. I said, wait a minute. If you have nothing written, you're not always writing. You're always talking about writing. Talkers talk. Writers write. You're not a writer until you actually write. Mm-hmm. You're not well, are you a comedian if you don't tell jokes?
On stage, I think you can't call yourself a comedian until you have a microphone in front of you.
Really?
I think you can call yourself funny.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, stand-up comedy
Yeah.
is certainly an art. It's a venue. It's,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
something that can't be compared to anything else.
Oh, yeah.
I know plenty of people who I consider to be funnier than me, but they couldn't go on stage and do what I do.
Yeah, I laugh sometimes when people say, hey, Vin, can you write this thing for us? You're a writer. And they think that if you're a writer, you can write anything. Writing comedy is an art.
Absolutely.
And it's difficult.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to make people laugh. You have to find out where they're coming from, very much like being a poet. What is it that you have to say? What are you trying to say? What does your work say for you? If you should suddenly disappear, what do you want people to say that David Gallo stands for and believes? Who was David Gallo?
I just try to be the best man that I can.
And be willing to be somebody else every day if you have to?
I mean, we all have to wear different coats. I was once told as a salesperson to be a chameleon. You know, you need to adapt and react to your situations. Yesterday, I was in New York City from the previous night. I had gone out. Still being up from the night before, I decided to go take a walk around New York City.
Okay.
7 o'clock in the morning, I said, hey, let me go upstairs to the Empire State Building. Turns out the observation deck doesn't open up till 8 o'clock.
Oop.
So I had an hour to kill. I decided to go get myself some potassium and buy a banana. The guy at the fruit stand was selling bananas for 50 cents a piece. I had a $20 bill. I gave it to him. He said, I have no change. I said, I'll take 40 bananas. So I bought 40 bananas from the guy. And I spent the next hour or two of my day handing out bananas to total strangers. Now, I got a kick out of it, A, because, you know, paying it forward is a beautiful thing. But the reactions that you get from people, some people look at you like I'm the crazy one. No. No. You know, some people look like, what are you trying to hand me a phallic piece of food at 7 o'clock in the morning? I don't know you. Some people laugh. Some people took a banana. You know what I mean? So I positively affected some people that day. Mm-hmm. You know, and if you could make one person a little bit happier every day, and if everybody did that, you know, the world would be a better place. So, I mean, it's hard to not be bewildered and a skeptic and an individualistic selfish person in today's world. You know, it's a dog-eat-dog world, and we're all trying to survive. But, you know, the more people that there are, the more that communication and helping each other becomes paramount.
The interesting thing about you that caught my eye and wanted you here is because not only are you always thinking and always observing, but you're black booking it. You're writing things down and you're trying to record your feelings. That's the difference between being someone who lived here and someone who has shared some of the experiences of being alive. And sharing those experiences are what writers do. Telling people how you feel about certain things and maybe helping them to live their lives in some special way. So today, we're not only celebrating who you are, David, we're celebrating the fact that you are helping other people to understand how to live day by day and how to observe life. It's a philosophy. And it kind of says, live each day to its fullest, be who you are, enjoy the fact that you are in fact alive. And whether this is only a dream or not doesn't make a difference if you're enjoying it. So, I want to thank you for sharing yourself. I can't wait to see what book is going to come out of all of this. It should be a fascinating, interesting book. What did you were playing with a title?
How to Live Your Life.
How to Live Your Life. Makes a lot of sense. So if you want to know how to live your life, wait for David's book. It'll be out eventually when he gets to it, when he's through giving out bananas and living his life. David, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
It has been a pleasure.
Pleasure's all mine.
Keep on doing what you're doing, and thank you for joining us here today and joining David. Remember, you got a story to tell? Tell it. Believe in what you do. Do it on paper so that we can share it with you.